What's up, everyone? I'm your host, Coach Joe Strong, here to bring you another great episode of the Business of Strength podcast, where you can hear the interviews, tips, and tools to turn your passion for strength into a profitable business you will love. Don't forget, our annual gym business retreat is September 28th and 29th in beautiful, sunny Scottsdale, Arizona at the Canopy Hotel. It's a beautiful hotel. We're going to have a lot of fun. 2 jam-packed days of learning, building, guest speakers, luncheons, dinners, pool party, so much more. We're going to have a great week great 2 days for everybody. It's a Thursday and Friday. It's going to be awesome. So you'll have some time if you want to stay for a couple extra days and spend some time there with your family. It's a great place to vacation. There's so much to do and so much fun there. You know, Grand Canyon, Red Rock, Sedona. It's just a great spot. Or you could just stay right there in Scottsdale and have a lot of fun. So come on out and see us. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have so much fun. It's a very reasonably priced event for a couple $100. You can go to thebusinessofstrength.com, or when you catch this, just DM us and we will get you set up. We only have a couple seats left. I believe we have 2 seats left. So jump on that now. Do not waste a second for that. In this episode, I'm talking to Kevin Carr. Kevin Carr is one of the head coaches and business partners at Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning. He's also Mike's partner in the Certified Functional Strength Coach Certification. And they run, obviously, everybody knows Mike Boyle. They run 3 super successful gyms in Massachusetts, and they've certified over 12,000 coaches in the last few years that they've been doing the Certified Functional Strength Coach. They're coming here in November. In October. Sorry, we're super excited to see them here, and that's going to be an awesome weekend of learning for our team, and we're pumped. We talked about some great stuff. Kevin, a great conversation. Mike Boyle's a legend in the industry, obviously, and Kevin and a few other young strength and conditioning coaches that he's partnered up with and made part of his inner circle are taking his brand into the future. So they've done a really great job. We talk about, you know, how Kevin started as a summer intern and you know, over the years worked his butt off and became Mike Boyle's business partner. You know, how they plan on growing the Certified Strength Coach certification into the future. You know, what the future holds for Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning. They're thinking about expanding their gym model, balancing multiple businesses, running a busy schedule while still coaching. And why hands-on certifications are still the best, absolute best. How to be the best coach you can be. This is Kevin Carr, one of the top guys in the industry. You want to listen to this episode. Let's get dialed in. Coach Joe, this is the Business of Strength. All right, everybody. I'm on with Kevin Carr. He is one of the head coaches at Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning, and he is the head of their certification program. And I'm excited to talk to Kevin. We have Mike and the team coming here this fall, and we're going to get our whole team certified, and we're really excited. So thanks for coming on, Kevin. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about, obviously a lot of people in the industry know Mike Boyle, and he's kind of one of the bigger names in the industry. Tell me a little bit about your role, your journey with Mike Boyle and the creation of the certification program, and what kind of, you know, differentiates that from a lot of the other certifications that are out there.
Yeah. Similar to a lot of our staff, I started in our internship program. I'd say we hire almost 100% out of our internship program because it serves as like a natural kind of screen and 3-month interview. And so I interned in 2008. Mm-hmm. And the second I got there, I kind of knew this is what I wanted to do. I never really had an exposure to privatized strength and conditioning. I was previously a personal trainer at a Gold's Gym, and I kind of knew nothing at that point. I was about 19 years old. And so for me, I knew right away, like, this is the type of environment that I want to be in. And I've been fortunate that I would say I timed it well, and that this company was rapidly growing at that point in 2008 into 2010. We moved into the space we are now. And there were a lot of opportunities. One, just to coach. Like, I got a ton of coaching experience in a short period of time. But then we started to build out other parts of the business, which, for us, were more revenue streams for the business, but then also more opportunities for coaches like myself to help build businesses and, get equity in those businesses as well. We know, like in fitness, the turnover can be really high. You get coaches
Sure.
who fill up their training schedule really quickly. They get burnt out and they think, okay, what's next? And so something Mike has done really well, and Bob, his business partner, has done really well, is develop opportunities for coaches here to have equity in various different businesses that we've started. And that's kind of how CFSC started. It was interesting. For years, people had asked Mike to start a certification, and he always said no. He wasn't interested in it. We'd always done mentorship programs, like where people would come for a week and go through our education process. And we've always done internships. But then myself, Mike and Bob, Kevin Larrabee, when he was here, and Brendan Rearick, we got together and we said, let's actually build this and build it the way that we want it. You know, what we found when people would apply for an internship or a job, I didn't really care what they had for a certification, you know, because they were going to go through an internship. We were going to teach them the way we wanted them to do. We wanted them to coach, and how we wanted them to program, and how we wanted them to communicate. And so we said, well, how can we put that into a certification that if someone has it, I think, okay, that person would probably fit well in our team. And what we did is we tried to kind of take everything we do in the internship and we put it into pre-course online materials, lectures, videos, textbook, online exam, to get them theoretically up to speed with what we valued. And then we made an entirely practical certification. The big shortcoming that we kind of saw with many of the certification models out there is that people didn't have hands-on experience. They might have, passed a online certification course, but they hadn't really coached and really understood how to build
never
a
put their
program.
hands on another human.
Exactly. And so what we did is, like, we said, we're going to have an entirely practical course. After you do all the online work, you're going to have to coach all day. We're going to have to go through coaching situations. And then we're going to have a practical examination at the end of the day. And I think that attracted, we've been successful because I think that there's a lot of coaches, young coaches especially, who really are craving that experience. They might come out of college or a personal training program and not have that yet. And so for us, that's really what built Certified Functional Strength Coach. And, we've been doing it for 10 years now. Wow. And we've been, we started back in 2013. I remember I was looking back at the dates of when we started. So they were about 10-year mark now. And, we have over 12,000 coaches we've certified around the world. So for us, it's been a really good opportunity for myself as well as our staff, because our staff, we have natural instructors being trained from being in this experience over time that we can start to transition into that being another job for them.
Well, there's a couple great business points that I want to highlight that you made, just for all the other gym owners and coaches and entrepreneurs out there that listen to this podcast. One is, as a business owner, I think, and I remember speaking to Mike directly about this, and he's like, I knew that, one of the things that I had to do was create opportunities for people. Otherwise, you can just kind of constantly lose people, right? And that was one of the things that me and Dan, my business partner, try to do a lot is create some ways for people to feel like they have actual ownership and possibly like ownership over process and things like that. So, that's great on Mike's. I remember Mike saying, I don't know if it was on our podcast or it might have been on a call that we did with Vince Gabriel one time. And he said, look, I'm not greedy. I only need one or two pieces of pizza. He's like, there's 8 slices of pizza. I only need one or two of them. Yeah. He's like, so, and he made that analogy. And I always thought that was really smart, because it's like, look, the CFSC might not exist at all if Mike was the one that had to do it, right? Because it's just a matter of time and space and energy. You just can't do everything, right? So it's like, it's either I own nothing of a product that we could do and might be do well, or, I divvy off some of that ownership to other people. And I like that. And another thing that I think we talk about a lot is unused capacity. If Mike Boyle already had a really great internship program that was consistently turning out good coaches at the end of that internship program, that does, that makes room for, and it just gave me the idea. I'm like, why the hell aren't we doing a certification then? Because like that we have all that stuff packaged up. We deliver our entire internship on Teachable. So everything is a video module and then a worksheet, video module, worksheet, test, video module, worksheet, test, right? So it's all done on Teachable. So I do that so I could see when they've actually done the work, right? And it's like you have great positive feedback, but it's but a great idea of unused capacity. You already had this thing that was doing it, that you were doing. So it's just like, how can we package it up differently and make it a little bit more accessible to the masses? So I love that. Now, certified that many coaches, 12,000 coaches already. That's incredible.
Mhm.
And where does that compare? Do you have any idea where that compares to like, other certifications and things like that over the last decade? Or
I'm not totally sure. I'm sure NASM and NSCA probably
big
certify
ones?
more people. Yeah, like the larger certification bodies probably, because there's less commitment, right? Like the people,
Sure.
if they're going to attend an in-person workshop, that means time off from work, a
Yeah.
hotel, travel, things like that. But for us, I think that for us, there's a larger commitment from those people who are doing it to think, like, okay, I'm gonna do a really good job with this. And so
Yes.
for us, I'm happy with that. Like we're pretty much at least every other week doing a certification somewhere. Kind of, I mean, like I said, I was in Europe all last week. I had about 150 coaches last week,
Wow.
just between Italy and Serbia. So
Wow.
yeah, so we develop these partnerships in different countries with other education distributors, and then we work towards turning some of them into instructors and continuing their education. So it allows us a reach internationally, that I think is kind of unique to us. You don't see that as much through as many other
No, I don't
certification
see too
bodies.
many of the other ones doing that, and I really do think the differentiator is the hands-on stuff. In my opinion, like we won't even send our staff to a training specific like education thing if it's not in person or hands-on. It's not even worth it. Like sitting on a computer for 4 hours
Mm-hmm.
listening to training
Yeah,
theory is like, I might as well, it's like scratching your nails on the chalkboard. I can't stand
yeah,
that.
you're
Yeah,
blackout
yeah, you're
after a
checked
little
out.
while.
Everybody on Zoom, can we just say it now? Unless you're doing something like this where you're actually engaging with somebody, but if you're on like a Zoom conference, everybody's like, yeah, everybody's if they got the screen off,
Yeah,
they're
if
on
they're
their
doing a
phone.
million other
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. It's hard not to be distracted,
Exactly.
right? Or you think you're going to work from the
Yeah.
Starbucks and it's noisy. You're going to work from home, and like if I work from home, Dan, my business partner Dan always asked me, "Why don't you work from home 1 or 2 days a week?" I said, "Because if Antonio's home, he's on me like white on rice. I can't get away. Daddy, what are you doing? Daddy, what are you doing?" Like every 10 seconds, like I can't do anything in there, right? So
Exactly.
it's either I'm playtime
No.
Poppy or I'm working. It's one or the other. I can't do both. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about your
Yeah.
schedule.
Well, I go back to, there was a really good book that I read about that. There's a book called The Power of Full Engagement.
Oh wow.
And they talk about being able to silo your work and your, relaxation time. And like the more that gets crowded together,
Yeah.
the less fulfilling each of those things are, and the less quality that it is. And so, like I do the same thing.
Oh,
Like
that's
I
this
have an
one. The
office in
Jim
my house, but
Loner.
I
Jim. That's
rarely use it
that's
unless I'm recording a podcast.
that's
Yeah.
Jim Loner and Tony Schwartz. That looks like. How about check that one out? That's going to go on the list.
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
And I always remind myself of that when all these things start to blend together. I'm like, okay, let's create silos where I can work intensely for a period of time and then spend time with my family intensely, or do whatever it is that else I want to do.
Yeah.
Because if not, then it all gets muddied together.
Yeah, it is hard, especially as an entrepreneur, right? And you've kind of crossed over from being the employee to the entrepreneur. And when you're the employee, it's easier to silo work, like you said, right? Because like
Yes.
this is a thing that I do. It's not a part of who I am or what I am. It's just something I do, right? And these are and I do it for these people, right? And you can, I use the analogy like my wife has always worked at kind of a corporate job, right? And on
Mm-hmm.
Friday at 4 o'clock when she checks out, it's it's see ya, and it's for all the
Yeah.
people that I couldn't see, I just gave it the big fu,
Yeah.
and it's like but I'm out the door on a Friday, and it's like I don't want to think about this place until Monday morning at 9 a.m. again. Like I don't even put 1 millisecond of thought into it. Where like me and you got to go home with it every day, right? And you're constantly thinking about ways to
Exactly.
improve the systems, the processes, the people, right? And ultimately any entrepreneurial gig, whether it's even with a big name behind it like Mike Boyle, even with connections to perform better and things like that, you still got to sell that shit all the time, right? And it's constant, right? You're making
Yeah, all the
connections,
time.
you're meeting people, making connections all the time, and it's a lot of work, and it's very easy. It's very easy to be sitting on the beach with your family and like and I just start to like
Yeah,
drift
exactly.
towards like, let me just I get the notepad out and I start like writing down. My wife's like, I'm like, oh shit,
little
sorry,
notes.
sorry, yeah, sorry. I gotta hide my Post-its and shit so she doesn't find it.
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit about your role specifically, and so what exactly do you do for MBSC, and now we know that you're running the certification program. How do you balance the two? What are those
Yep.
two roles like? If we're looking at this strictly, if we're talking about like a business accountability chart and the KRA for your duty for MBSC versus your duties for CFSC, and how you manage both of those in terms of time and schedule.
Yeah. So recent update is that Mike's longtime business partner of the last 30 years, Bob Hansen, he retired in November.
Okay.
And so myself and a few of the other guys bought out his equity in the business at MBSC.
Okay.
And so we moved into a full ownership role here,
Great.
which is great because
Awesome.
it allows Mike to kind of roll back a little bit more, and it's given us new energy and organization into the overall structure. And so now there's kind of a few of us that kind of are managing the business on the day-to-day on a more expanded role from what we did previously. And so whether that's overall business development projects on a daily basis, managing the staff, we kind of break our staff down into cohorts, into groups, and the few of us kind of have our own mini groups, so where we can kind of keep tabs on, our small group of employees. And so continually working on the employee development and management on a daily basis. And then we all kind of work together along with Mike on the programming piece as well. And so I'm doing a little bit of everything. And
you still train too,
coach.
a little bit,
still
right?
Out on the floor. Yep. I think we all want to make sure we're out there on the floor a little bit. We'll kind of work in shifts where, like, some of us will take a group in the morning, some will take a group in the afternoon, and make sure we're also just kind of floating around more than everything else. Because although they're coaching the athletes, a lot of times I'm also coaching the coaches. And that's the biggest adjustment to make, I think, as we've kind of moved into that role, is like, I'll still take a handful of clients, I'll still kind of run a group, but then also making sure we're watching the coaches and then circling them back up for meetings and saying, hey, these are things we need to work on. These are things that we want to adjust, and managing them on a daily basis. Because we have almost 40 staff members between the locations. Because we have 3 locations that we're working out of now. And so we kind of all split up between those. I'm mainly at the one in Woburn, our main kind of flagship
you guys
facility.
Like, each person kind of like a facility leader in a sense? Like there's going to be like one person that's kind of a facility leader?
Yeah, so Vinny Toludo is one of our guys, and he's up at our Middleton facility that we've had for about 7 years, probably about 30 minutes north of where we are in Woburn. And he's really runs that one on a day-to-day basis. And then there's a couple of us down here kind of managing the main facility down here. And then we have another one about, 40 minutes south of here. And so we kind of bounce between those and just group up every week and continue to, whether it's our major development projects we're working on or managing the staff, we'll just kind of continue to share those tasks, which has been good in taking over that equity from Bob, and that, we kind of have more energy on the job and younger energy on the job as well. So we can continue to kind of keep that moving.
Well, it's like adding nitrous oxide to your team, right? Because, and again, I never met Bob, and I don't know Bob, so I can't speak to the relationship that he had in the time. I'm sure he was a wonderful partner for all these years, but there's just a reality that when you've done something for 30, 40 years or so, right, and you're at the tail end and you're thinking about greener pastures in a sense, that some younger blood and some younger life really energizes things, and we saw the same exact. We see it time and time again with lots of businesses who bring in partners, and that partner all of a sudden they come in with lots of ideas, they change some systems and things like that, and a lot of the changes that we've made, like with Adam coming into the business consulting, a lot of it was technology. Dan and I are just old school, and it's just like, notepad, Google Calendar. What else do I need? And he was like, we gotta, we create courses, video libraries. All I'm like, well, that's gonna be you, pal, because I'll do the video, but like in terms of like editing it and creating it and loading it to something, like that's not happening. So I'll be in Pluto before that happens. It'll never happen. So I think that's a great lesson to learn. Is that you can get more. And look, you just have to be realistic about your own personal energy. There's 24 hours in a day. You can only do so much. So how do you
Mhm.
balance that when you with the travel? Because do you coach most of the certifications yourself? A large
No,
majority
so
of them?
we have about 10 instructors.
Oh, okay.
Brendan does everything on the West Coast because he lives in California now. But then our staff travels pretty frequently. I'll take some of the bigger ones, or when we have newer partnerships, especially the international ones,
Yep.
it can help to get me there early because
Hmm.
we get more people signed up, and I'll go there to start to train their staff, and then we start to transition locally in these other countries. We develop local instructors,
Okay.
and part of that is them learning the curriculum. Part of that is them developing a brand for themselves, right? Like, originally everybody wanted Mike Boyle to teach, right? And that wasn't going to happen. And so, like, I had to go out of my way to kind of develop a brand
Yeah.
and personality. And that's, what we've started to do, one with our coaches and the coaches that we work with. So that allows me to be here more, and to get our other coaches out teaching and traveling as well. And so what we do between kind of our leadership group, we'll look at the calendar through the year and say, okay, hey, you're going to travel and take this one. We'll make sure we're here. I'll travel here. You guys make sure you're here. And we kind of make sure we communicate to make sure that there's always people in-house to manage things here, while there might be other coaches out on the road doing some education. And I was gone for a particularly long trip this last week, but usually it's about a weekend, especially for anything in the US. And so
Okay.
you get out, come back, and jump right back to work.
Great. I mean, look, it does create a logistical issue when you have like people in and out all the time. We deal with it quite
Mm-hmm.
frequently where, our GM here and our head trainer and myself and Dan travel quite a bit to a variety of speaking events and things like that. And our GM here, Mike, he's
Mm-hmm.
still highly competitive in the realm of strongman. He just competed at the Arnold last
Oh,
year and at national, so he's like a top level competitor in light heavyweight strongman. So he has some of that too. So
yeah.
look, but that's part of what I think. Let's talk about the clients though. I think all of these things when you talk about so the clients for MBSC are you know regular busy moms and dads and athletes, right? Just like
Mm-hmm.
what the majority of
Yep.
gyms out here have. You're either adult pop or athletes or a combination of both. And then obviously the clients for the CFSC are trainers, right, and gyms. And so, but on the
Mm-hmm.
MBSC side, I think at least I've seen it here with us. Like anytime we've, let's call it, professionalized ourselves more by creating a certification, by having a business consulting business, it's leveled our perception up with our clients of being world class or elite, or having hey, I train at Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning. Like there's some of the best coaches in the world. They do certification.
Mm-hmm.
They've certified 12,000 people. Like that's what they're telling their friends. So when they're when the 40-year-old mom is trying to get her BFF in the gym, she's like, no, this is one of the best gyms like in the
Yeah.
world. Like literally, I'm not just
Yeah.
saying that because I like it. Like they're literally one of the best gyms in the world. And it's like, oh wow, really? And you start to build that cachet. Do you get a lot of like people asking you about how was the certification? What are you teaching now? Like, do
Mm-hmm.
you see some of that?
Yeah. That's really become a part of it. It's funny, like because we've been in this kind of community that we're in now for such a long time. I mean, Mike's been here since we've been in Woburn, Winchester area since like 1996, and so it's funny now that we've grown kind of the certification and the education end of the business, and we always have people visiting. Like every week, we have a coach shadowing who's like, "Hey, I'm going to come in and shadow for the week." We host a big winter seminar once a year where we usually have about 200 coaches. Now they really are like, oh my God, like there's a lot of people that come here
Yeah.
to learn from this staff. And I've seen that perception that they have of our facility and our coaches change since we've really built the education model to the point they're like, oh wow, these people really get what they're talking about. They're an authority or an education source for
Yes.
other coaches. And it's funny, they even start to talk to a lot of people who are coming and visiting, and getting their perception, which is great for us because then for them, they say they feel really good about their choice to be here.
Yeah.
They have existing relationships with our staff, and then for them that generates referrals. They're like, hey, I'm serious, this isn't the same experience you're going to get at whatever gym down the street. And
Yeah.
yeah, for us, it helps lift their perception of where they are training, because the reality is, without that, they might not really understand the difference between what we think is good programming and what somebody else thinks is good programming, but they understand what a great experience is. And I think
Yeah.
we provide that, but then now they have that added perception of, oh wow, this is I'm training somewhere where it's as good as it gets. And I think that's important.
That's kind of like perception is reality, right? And we wanted to create
Yeah.
that too. And part of one of the reasons why we were so attracted to the business consulting was, one that whenever you teach something, and I think you could probably speak to this as well. Whenever you teach something, you learn it immeasurably better than you thought you knew it, right?
100%.
So
Yeah.
and something as rudimentary as like the squat, right? When you've taught 500
Hmm.
variations to 12,000 people in every situation of human physiology that's known to man, you can coach the squat way better today
Yeah.
than you probably could 5 years ago, just because you've done it so many reps, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing kind of was true for us. So like, all right, if we start teaching this stuff to other people, that means we have to have our shit dialed in tight, right? And like, so if I'm going to
Together.
teach,
Yeah.
yeah, if I'm going to teach our marketing system, well, our marketing system's got to be A plus plus. It can't just be some random crap that we threw together. And like, if our customer service, I'm teaching customer service, well, our customer service has got to be great. If anybody comes to visit me and for a consulting seminar or whatever, and they go down on the floor and they ask our clients like, oh, what's customer service, and the response isn't great, it's like, all right, these guys are full of shit, right? So that, I think,
Exactly.
one hand kind of washes the other, where you guys, it forces you to kind of put your money where your mouth is, right? You're telling everybody you're great. You're selling to everybody that you're great. So now you got to go out and be great, right? And it's kind of forced that process for
Hmm.
you guys. That's awesome. How what does growth look like? And like, what are some of the goals that you have now? I know, obviously, we got in touch through. I got to give Nolan Sana a plug, right? Because we got
Yeah.
in touch through Breda Strength and Conditioning. Nolan Sana are close personal friends of mine, and I've known them for years. And they were really, really, really excited about having you guys come out, and they talked so highly about it. And I respect the hell out of Noel in terms of as a trainer. He's very, very, very diligent
Hmm.
and dedicated to the craft and to his clients, right? So I know when he speaks to me about training, as highly as he did about you guys, that there was some real teeth there in a sense, right? And I knew he was on some, so that's why I wanted to reach out and speak to you guys myself. And so doing a lot of these European gyms, and you've partnership with them, and you're traveling all over the country. What are some of the biggest, like, what are some of the goals for the upcoming year, finishing out this year? And like, what are some of the biggest limiting factors in growth? Because it seems like time being one of them, like being able to have coaches in different cities and different places every weekend starts to become a little bit of a bottleneck. So,
Hmm.
what does growth look like for the certifications this year? And then what are some of the limiting factors that you're trying to work through now?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing we're looking to grow with the certification company specifically is more partnerships with other organizations. And so we've been successful, partnering with health clubs,
Mm-hmm.
working on partnerships with universities as well. And so one
Mm.
thing I see that's usually lacking in university-based education is the practical experience. Like
Yes.
I went to UMass Amherst, I went through a kinesiology program. My practical experience is that I was interning here.
Yeah.
And so for us, working with educational bodies like universities, and how can we help you provide practical experience on addition to the classroom, and finding people in administrative positions there, or professor positions there, that we can partner with to be able to help them deliver practical education. Because I think for us, my goal with CFSC was always to provide the best entry level education for coaches when they first come in. Getting them to understand what it's like to be in a gym and how to coach and program in a gym. And that's usually what's lacking for people when they come out of university. And so
For sure.
not everyone is able to commit to, a 3-month internship program. And, we always want them to do that if they can. But how can we help provide some of that into universities? And so that's something we've been working on. And there's some challenges there, as far as specific accreditation guidelines that are required there that aren't
Yeah.
necessarily required in the private sector, like there is in fitness. And then also working with health clubs, whereas like there's a lot of trainers in health clubs who want to do a good job, but might not have the education or might not have the experience. And how can we help these health clubs maybe find more qualified coaches, work as a lead generator system for them, and to help get them coaches up to speed to deliver a standard. One thing that I see in our business, and I'm sure with yours as well, is that for us, we have a system. So when I'm traveling, like I was gone last week, my coaches who covered for me and took my clients or my groups, they have the program, They know how to communicate the program. They know progressions. They know regressions. So our clients are fine with me being gone because they're going to get the same quality experience. I don't think that's true in many other gyms and health.
No, very few.
And so, you might have one person training this way on this side of the gym, another person training this way. And so getting them to be able to provide consistency at that scale when the scale is so large. And so we're really trying to target organizations where we can help them do that. And the challenge on our part, like you said, is staffing. For us, like, I need to get all my instructors up to speed, get them as good as it gets, so that if I'm not there teaching, or one of these other guys that's been doing it, like Steve or Vinny or Dan, who've been teaching for a long time for us, aren't teaching it, that they get the same experience. The same way that we systemize our training in the facility, I'm trying to systemize our education delivery as well. And that's the biggest challenge. And I think if you talk to most gym owners, staffing is the biggest challenge, especially now. I probably have weekly people reaching out to me looking, hey, do you have someone that for this job? I'm looking for coaches. And it's the same thing as I'm just trying to scale our education. And when we're looking at working with large organizations like health clubs or with universities, that becomes even more demanding, just because there's so much demand there and there's so many coaches there. And so that's something we're working really hard on, is just training our staff, getting people confident to public speak. I mean, that's a skill that takes practice.
That's a lot of reps.
And so for us, what we do, like you said about when one person teaches, two people learn, right? And so with our younger staff, once they get into coaching, they've been here for a little bit, we immediately have them start doing intern education. Hey, start practicing by teaching the interns that we have. Then when we do workshops and smaller seminars at the gym, start to get experience getting in front of a crowd. That's how I got practice and got good at it. Mike started to get me low-level opportunities where you were kind of safe to fail or struggle a little bit.
Right, going down to the local chiropractic office and doing a talk or something like that. Yeah.
I said, I went to the Nestle factory that up the road and did a workshop on mobility and body weight stuff that they could do during the day. And that was like one of my first speaking gigs. And like that, but that is really valuable. You need to get those experiences. And so we're trying to expose our staff to those things so we can get them up to speed and get them ready to go.
That's awesome. That's great. I mean, I love everything you had to say there. I think, there's some real dogma, if that's the right word, in those big organizations, especially on the university side. I work with a few universities. I'm on the board of directors of one university, and I've been an adjunct professor for 20 plus years at another. And it's like trying to move an oil tanker, right? They don't change direction very easily. And there's a lot of old ideologies and stuff like that there. You got to wait for like 3/4 of the strength staff to retire to get some of the new stuff in there, right?
Exactly.
And so forth. But
exactly,
I think there's a great opportunity there because, I mean, we're seeing it more and more and more where we're getting more educated interns that have, everybody's got a 3.8, 3.7, 4.0. They got great scores, right? They got this. And I say, okay, well, where have you worked? Well, I haven't really worked. Okay. Did you play sports? I always ask if you play sports, because if you played sports, you were involved in a strength and conditioning program, at least in college. So you have that,
exactly.
Right? And you might not have paid attention much, but at least you did it, right? You have muscle memory for training. And then, but it's amazing to me how people are getting to the end of an exercise science degree, which in most universities is unfortunately caught somewhere between, it's not that great for being a trainer, and it's not really a scientist either. So you're in this pseudo area of, I didn't really get a lot of hands-on education that I need to go get a great job as a coach. And then I'm not a real scientist, and I probably don't want to be a real scientist. Most of the people that go into exercise sciences are not the ones that want to go for PhDs. Some, a very small number, right? So you're kind of stuck. So universities, it's kind of a vanilla degree in a lot of them, and they get to the end of a 4-year degree. And like you said, if it's required, they did one semester of internship or work study program where they shadowed at a chiropractor, physical therapy office or something like that, or they did an internship for credits. But a lot of them don't. And especially now, we're still on the heels of COVID, where a lot of people missed out on those opportunities for the last 2 years, right? So like 2020 and 2021, when we were hiring people, Like my internship got canceled like 3 times. So it was like, okay, we ran an
Yeah,
internship the summer of 2020 anyway. We didn't care.
so do we.
Yeah. We were like, it's like this is how we grow our business. I can't if I don't run an internship,
Exactly.
I can't hire somebody, and I need to hire. So
100%.
that's awesome. And then so other than building more strategic partnerships and things like that, how do you see the future of the program? Will you always try to keep some type of hands-on practical, as that's a big part of it? But obviously the entrepreneur in me, the scale side of me says, well, if this thing was fully online, they'd probably be able to sell 20
Mhm.
times as many of them as they do now. So
Yeah,
what is kind of the
we
thought
actually do
process
have a
there?
fully online version. We have a fully online version of both level 1 and level 2, and there were some challenges in building it and being able
Okay.
to keep it to the product that we wanted it to be. And so we work with Inspire 360. They do a great job. They're an online education company that works with fitness, and they built us a customized platform for us to be able to deliver a practical online certification.
Oh.
And what that means is they get the same pre-course materials that someone attending the practical goes to. Then what we do is I've had a professional production company follow me every year through the certification. So they get the most up-to-date version of a full practical. It's literally it's like they're in front of me. We
Right.
had
They
it
film
almost like
everything. Yeah.
POV with the
Yep.
questions, me going around coaching and fixing things. And they have to watch it. It's like you said, teachable. They have to watch the whole video. And so it's like a full day of material. And then we created the online practical exam because we still wanted a practical exam to have that part of it. And so what we did is we created an online portal with a whole bunch of questions. They
Great.
film themselves coaching. We give them situations they have to coach through. Hey, someone struggles with a squat. What are you going to do to correct it? Show us the original version, show us how you would correct it, give us coaching cues. And they submit all these videos onto our portal. Then our coaches, our instructors, go through that portal and give them feedback, pass or fail them on each item, and then they go back and do it again. And so it allows them to still get a in-person practical experience, not the same as coaching and being here for a 10-hour day like it normally would be. But they literally get to watch that whole 10-hour day. And then I still have to do a practical examination online that they get feedback on, and then they can go back if they struggled and redo those things. And so we still wanted them to have to demonstrate some sort of mastery of them being able to demo and then being able to problem solve certain situations. And so that has allowed us to scale. And we were very fortunate in timing in that we launched the online certification in January of 2020. And then it kind of saved us because then we weren't able to teach courses for a good chunk of 2020.
Talk about timing,
that
right?
it's very fortunate. And then what we do is if people take the online certification, we allow them to come and audit an in-person certification at any time. And so, because I still want them to come and have that experience in person. And so for me, it's no skin off my back if you went through the whole online course and then you say, hey, I saw that you're going to be in our area, next year, can I come? Sure. I want you there to have that experience. And so it allows us to kind of put those two things together.
That's great. That's awesome. I love that. I did not know that. I should have done my research. I did not know they had a fully online option available for that. And that definitely, obviously that makes it a lot more scalable. Is there a difference in price point for either one of those, or they're the same?
Same.
So, I mean, for the standpoint of convenience, I think it's fantastic. My message to all the young coaches and entrepreneurs and gym owners out there is get your ass to a live seminar.
Yeah.
And
that's what I always tell people.
If
and
you
that's
all
why
out,
we give the audit.
yeah. If you can in any way, shape, or form. I mean, obviously for me, it was always networking too, right? I want to meet some other great coaches. I want to see what they're doing with their business. I want to meet you guys, right? Like, again, if you were coaching the seminar, I want to come shake your hand and get to know you. And it's like, hey, down the road, if I ever needed anything or you need a job or I'm looking to hire people, it's like, hey, hey, Kevin, you got any other great, can I get a list of certified coaches that have come through the certification that I could, send a job app to or whatever? Like, there's always opportunity out there where the online thing, you never really break down those communication barriers very much. You just do the thing and it's like, okay, thank you. I got my cert and you're on your way. So,
Mhm.
I think, do you, the lineage between the two? I mean, do you, on the sales side, do you sell more online only or than the in-persons?
Yeah, so we're consistently selling online every week, and that is at the point where that sometimes almost sells itself.
Yep.
Live workshops are harder to fill. They take
Sure.
more work, they take more marketing energy, more advertising. But the online course just consistently sells, and we market and advertise it and push it out there. But we have a huge, I mean, there's a lot of people craving in-person courses. Just a little bit more work to sell on our part. But if I look at the end of the year, we probably have we're probably close to 50-50 to be honest, but there's just a lot more sweat equity that goes into selling an in-person course.
Right, right. And an online course is not easy. Like, because a lot
No.
of people, like, even an online training, it's not easy. I think part of the cachet, like if Mike Boyle was running, when you did your winter seminar, I was supposed to come up this last year, and we got a really
Mhm.
bad snowstorm, so I couldn't make it up. And the whole point of coming to meet you guys, right? And coming
Yeah.
to do that, right? I wanted to step foot in Mike Boyle strength and conditioning and see what was going on up there, right? So, you miss out on a lot of that, but I think there is a movement in the industry. There is a convenience factor, and people a lot. I think you see it with that. The reason why fitness is where it is in this country is, you know, the comfort crisis. Every we
Yes.
travel towards the path of least resistance, and people are like, oh, I don't have to travel, I don't have to spend any extra money, and I don't have to make a huge commitment. Oh, I'll just do it online. Perfect, and it's easy. And it's like, no, that was kind of the whole fucking
Yeah.
point. The whole point.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
whole point
That's
was
where the
that you had
value
to get
comes
on a
from.
plane,
I
and
mean,
now
I'll
now
tell
you,
you,
yeah, you're gonna be so dialed in. I
some of
spent.
the people who I'm closest with in this industry, some of the most valuable relationships I have are from going to courses and meeting
100.
people. And I always tell people, like, we send our whole staff to Perform Better in Rhode Island every year.
Mhm.
And I say, you're going to go with all the lectures, but I'm going to tell you, you're going to develop a lot of relationships. And that's what you're there to do, really, is to connect with people. And you don't realize, Mike always says the 20-year window. You don't realize, looking back 20 years of what maybe that important experience actually ended up meaning to you. I mean, I met my wife at a Perform Better seminar.
Oh, no way.
And so, like, yeah, I met her in 2017 in Rhode Island, and she's Canadian. So John Chainberg sent her down
Was
there.
Chris the deacon? Yeah.
Yeah, funny story. Even funnier. Chris was there when I proposed because we were doing a summit in Brazil, and with Perform Better Summit in Brazil, our
Oh,
friend
wow.
Felix had set up, and Chris was there. And I said, well, I'm going to propose to my wife when I'm down here. And Chris was there at the proposal, and I said, it's full circle. I mean,
Oh,
we met at Perform Better years before that. So, I mean, you never know the connections that you're going to develop, the opportunities you might get from going to an in-person experience like that. And so I always encourage people, do it. It's worth
yeah,
it.
for sure. I mean, that's to me, that's the best. It's the best advice. If you're in your 20s and you're trying to cut your teeth as a strength coach in the industry, part of it is obviously mastering the X's and O's and getting good at your craft and diving in deep to something, anything, right? I tell anybody, look, pick something and go to the bottom of the hole as far as you can go, right? And figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of it is networking, right? And it
Yeah.
sounds cliche and a lot of people say it, but like your network is your net worth. Every jump
Mm-hmm.
we've taken in business or in my personal life was almost always on the heels of a relationship with somebody there was an opportunity that was created. It was somebody knew somebody. I mean, this building and the scale of our business came from a relationship that we had with a client. We helped him and his family lose hundreds of pounds. We changed their lives. We changed their whole family dynamic. And he saw us struggling to find another location. We were looking to move to a larger location. And he was like, hey, I build these steel structure buildings. That's what I do. If you guys find a piece of property, I know I can do it cheaper than what you can rent a 10,000 square foot space for. So,
Yeah.
that was 2012. We started that process. 2013, we started construction. We started here in 2014, and owning, a multi-million-dollar facility with, and the property is is kind of the golden goose in any business, right? And that happened.
Yeah.
That happened because of a relationship. That did not happen because of some great marketing ploy or sales funnel or anything like
No.
that came from, you know, a lot of hard work and elbow rubbing and going to some dinners and becoming somebody's real friend and confidant in a sense. So I love that. Let's talk about, you know, you mentioned something, you know, about the team and kind of growing the team a little bit. You know, we go back to the intern. You said you only hire mostly from your internship. Do you guys run your internship all 3 semesters or 3 times a year, or is it just a summer internship?
3 times a year. So
Three
yeah,
times.
we'll go fall, winter, spring, one internship mixed together, and then summer. And so we're constantly have a flow of interns coming through.
Great.
And so for us, like you said, that's a natural hiring funnel that, you know, we look at as we get through that internship. What is our demand for staff, and where is our current staff moving towards? Are there going to be people moving on? Are there going to be people shifting roles? And then we look at our group of interns and say, okay, who do we really like? It's pretty clear after a little chunk of time who wants to be here, who has what it takes, and then are they going to be willing to work here? Are they local? Are there somebody's going to have to move? And we start to work that out early on and figure, okay, now we can start to move, you know, 1 or 2 people into this employee position. And so for us, it naturally kind of works as a hiring funnel.
So I always tell any gym owner out there that anybody can start their own internship, and start to create that funnel. What are some of the ways in which, now, again, I understand that you've been there for a long time. You have the name recognition and the, let's call it the cachet of people wanting to come to you. So you do get that, right? Like I'm sure you get lots of applications of people coming in. But what would you recommend? What would be like some recommendations for, you know, the smaller gym out there that maybe doesn't have the Mike Boyle name to create an internship and run an internship for like a summer internship?
Yeah. I think if you don't have the brand name recognition where people are going to be immediately seeking you out for an experience, go out and develop relationships with universities and exercise science programs. Like we are lucky that we have kind of the name brand recognition. But with that said, we have partnerships with Springfield College. We have partnerships with Salem State. We have partnerships with Merrimack University, and they consistently say, okay, I have, you know, a grad fellow, or I have an undergrad student who wants a 3-month internship or whatever it is. And they're constantly sending people our way, and they appreciate it because there aren't enough, like we said, practical opportunities, and they might not be in a position to provide it in-house for them. Those advisors or administrative people are constantly looking for that. And so if you go out and develop that relationship, go back to that networking idea and say, hey, we're looking for people. You might get some of your best employees by doing that. And that you can't put a price on the value of finding someone who's really good, who you can be able to keep for a long time. And so start out by doing that. And then you're going to build a name brand, right? Once people get into the field, maybe they with you for a period of time, and maybe we have a lot of alumni that go off to professional organizations, and they're going to start referring more people to you for an internship opportunities. And
that kind of snowballs over time.
Yeah. And like, figure out what your system is, write down your philosophy and how you want to educate it, and then start to deliver it. You'll fine tune it. I mean, our internship has changed a lot over time because we found better ways to deliver it and taken feedback and looked at what we did. And that's how it's developed into what it is now. And we have, 2 people who are in charge essentially of our internship process now because it's so large. I mean, we have 20 interns right now over the course of the summer. And then we'll take, around 10 for the other 2 semesters, fall and winter, spring. So, consistent bodies coming through here for us, which is great for them and great for us. And with the understanding that not everyone's going to stay here as an employee. And my job when they're here in the internship is we're constantly communicating with them with, like, what do you want to do? Because we have, as you probably do, a great network that you can refer them to, right? Like Mike, like constantly we meet with the interns and we say, okay, like, do you want to work here? Do you want to work in a private setting? Do you want to open your own gym? Do you want to work in college, professional, high school? And then start to, provide them networking opportunities. Hey, I'm going to send you up to, go work at this university for a couple of days and see what that experience is like. So you put your toe in the water. And then, when job opportunities come up, if I know what you want to do, then I know exactly who to call. But if we don't have that communication, then you're not going to get the most out of this. And for us, it benefits to have good alumni out in the field.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic ideology too. I never looked at it like, we're only in this just to hire this one person or two people that we need at the end of the internship. It's hey, I'm creating more relationships. We go back to the whole thing of networking and creating those relationships. Even though these are 22-year-old kids, one of them might own 20 gyms down the road. One of them might be the next
exactly.
head strength conditioning coach at Notre Dame. You have no idea what they're going to turn into. So, let's keep those relationships super positive. And I think that's a great thing on your point, on your guys' part where you're not so driven by your own personal motivation that I'm here to help these kids. I'm a student of our product, I should say, of the industry. I'm 47 years old, so we didn't have any of this stuff when I started. There was very little education, online stuff. There was nothing, right? So, it was all networking, and you were lucky if you found like a local gym that had a jacked meathead that would like mentor you as a kid and like show you how to train. So for me, it was always a way of giving back. It's like, hey, if I can help a kid, maybe he comes. I have a kid with me right now, Jason, who's amazing, and he's in the middle of he's torn between deciding whether or not he wants to go the collegiate route and dive in fully on the collegiate route or go private sector. We're giving him a great show of what it could be on the private sector. And then, at the end of it, I told him at the end of the summer, you have to tell me which one you want. And if you want private sector, I'm going to help you. There's a good chance we hire you here, or I'll make some connections to 10 other gyms that are local and I can help you get a job. Or if you're going to go in the collegiate route, I'm going to make some phone calls to a bunch of, strength and conditioning, coaches that I know, and let's get you set up. Because, there really is only two routes. You got to choose. You either go collegiate or you go, or you go private sector. I guess now there's a third, which is just online influencer. You don't actually train anybody, but I got 3 million followers.
Those are the ones that don't normally work out.
Yeah. I got 3 million
Those are the
followers.
interns that don't normally work out because they have to coach.
They do not work out as interns. We've had one or two of those that were very focused. Like the first, I really, I'm very focused on my personal brand. I was like, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you're 22, you have no personal brand. What is that? What are you talking about? So
exactly,
that's awesome. That's a great. And I think another thing, and maybe you could speak to this a little bit too, is, I think for a lot of gyms don't create an internship program because they're afraid of the work that it will take to educate, motivate, and inspire somebody. And I kind of think it's similar. A lot of gym, you talk to them, it's like, they're bashing employees and having to deal with employees. And that's, look, don't go into business then. There's no point in being in business if you don't want employees, right? Yeah. Then you just, go get a sales job, just go sell shit and don't deal with anybody, right? But I think, like, I always looked at it like, if you don't take the time to educate people and level up your team, at some point you're going to hit a crossroads where, you don't have the people to grow, right? And then, you're just a guru maybe who has a gym but you're still stuck doing 40, 50 training sessions, a week, and you can't get away from nothing, and there's no scale, there's no growth. And like you said with Mike, like, there's no legacy, there's nothing to leave behind because you didn't train and you didn't have, the Kevin Carr that you could farm off a piece of the business to, who has a lot more business life left in them, to take over the business. Most small businesses don't sell, right? They go out of business, right? So and again, in a gym is an even more complicated because obviously the gym is named Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning, right? So, it's when most gyms either go out of business or maybe an employee will buy it, or if it's a really well-run business like Mike's or a lot of others, right, they'll have an opportunity to sell it off, right, and sell off, maybe to like a larger company who wants to buy a bunch of gyms and stuff like that. But the majority of them, the vast majority, just wind up fizzling out. The kids don't want to take it over. The family doesn't want to be involved, and then that's it. It goes out of business. You sell the equipment for, 25 cents a pound.
Pennies on the dollar. Yeah.
Yeah. It's out of business and done. So it's great. So I love it, man. And now where tell everybody give everybody the best places to communicate with you personally and to get involved with either Mike Boyle and the certifications.
Yeah, I'd say the easiest place to communicate with me is through social media. You said you put my Instagram in the show notes. And so it's at Kevin Carr, and then also at Certified FSC would be where you get all our updates of where we're going. I constantly post all of our events on there, and that'll link you right to our website at inspire360.com, where we teach the courses. And then MBSC official Instagram, you can see everything that we do on a daily basis here at the gym. And so you'll be able to stay kind of up to date on where we're traveling to, what we're up to as a gym, and kind of where I might be at, whether it's at the business or teaching courses. That'd probably be the best place to find me.
Awesome. Kevin, this was great. I learned a lot about the certification. As always, along with yourself and the rest of the Mike Boyle team, you guys are always trying to be leaders in the industry and lead the charge towards industry greatness and improving the industry standards for training and customer service and just the delivery of excellence. And I can't thank you enough for being here. And I'm excited to share this with our community.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it. I always enjoy doing this. So look forward to seeing you guys in October.
Yeah, we're pumped. We're pumped. We'll see you then. That's Kevin Carr, everybody.
Awesome.
MSM, Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning, and the Certified Functional Strength Coach.